Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, you guys. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you for joining. I definitely appreciate it. It is Monday. The sun is off and on here in the Cleveland. I had to look out the window. The sun is off and on here in the Cleveland market. So thank you for joining me today. If this is your first time joining me, welcome, welcome. Please make sure you like and subscribe to my channel. So I like to pop on here definitely on Mondays to give you your market update. Lots of great information about what's going on in the real estate market, give you some tips and information that you can utilize. So today's topic I am talking about is a home an asset or liability? And it's kind of interesting, this topic for me, because I am over the weekend, I had watched a video, if you guys are familiar with Earn Your Leisure, and I love everything that they're doing. So a lot of times I'll catch the replays of their videos that they put out there. And they recently interviewed Grant Cardone. And I love Grant Cardone. I've taken his training course. I've been to his conference. I've read his books. So I love everything that he's doing. And Grant Cardone has a philosophy. Even though I love him, there is one part of his philosophy that I don't agree with. And so I want to talk to you guys about that today and just kind of give you another perspective to look at things. So thanks for joining me. All right, thank you for joining me today again. Okay, so so on the Earn Your Leisure podcast, they were doing an interview with Grant Cardone. And if you are not familiar with Grant Cardone, he is a entrepreneur, kind of self-made millionaire. And he has built his millions primarily through real estate. I want to say on the video, he said that he has about $2 billion in assets, and real estate assets is what he had. Obviously, he finds investors, bring them in to build this massive portfolio. So one of the things that Grant Cardone, what he kind of teaches and shares, yes, he has this massive real estate portfolio, but the property that he actually lives in, he would never buy. And he feels that you should lease or rent that property, your primary residence. You should never purchase that for yourself, because it becomes a liability. It's a liability for you when it's not income producing. So for him, he's saying that it also allows him to have mobility. And if he decides that he wants to move to a different state or just go somewhere else, different scenery, whatever that is the reason why he does that. And so I was listening to this interview with him, and it just really had me thinking, like, wow, I get what he's saying and why he's saying that, absolutely. But I think that if it goes to the wrong ears, that there may be a little misconception out there. And so I just want to talk about that today, to talk about, is owning real estate, is it an asset or liability? So when you look at the word asset, the definition of what an asset is something that puts money in your pocket. Obviously, a liability is going to be something that takes money out of your pocket. So a house is what's considered to go towards someone's net worth as part of that. In fact, a lot of people buy a home and they have a mortgage on there, they pay down their mortgage, and that's part of their plan, their retirement plan, is to have this home. So I want to take you back just a few minutes here to kind of go deeper in on this conversation. So when you think about it, and I've shared this in the past about, my grandparents. When you think about my grandparents, it wasn't the easiest thing to do in their day and time to just go down to the bank, get that mortgage on the property that they were living in. So they had to save all of the money themselves in order to buy the home, buy the shell of a home that they then built out over time, over many years from working, and put it into that property. So for if you're in the Black community, for a long time, it wasn't the easiest thing. Home ownership and owning real estate was not the easiest thing to do whatsoever. And so then when people would have the ability to own a home, and then they wanted to just do better for themselves, own their own business, owning that real estate, that piece of property is what allowed them to be able to do that. Outside of getting just a regular mortgage from the bank, they couldn't go into the bank and then just get a normal loan to start, start that corner store. A lot of times we used to see a lot of the mom and pop stores in the community, and they just were not able to do that. So owning real estate is what has allowed these families that during that time to be able to grow and be able to provide for their family and for the generations behind them. So if you think about what Grant is saying, he is saying that you do not want to own that piece of real estate because it's a liability. Well, why is it a liability? You probably have a mortgage on there, you have insurance, you have utilities, you have taxes, and everything that you have to pay. So you're putting out cash out, which is making it then a liability. However, when you own a property as an investment property and you put tenants into your property, then that tenant is paying you cash every month. By doing that, you're bringing money in. So he's going off of the very principles of, if it's a rental property, yes, cash is coming in, so that makes it an asset. But if you own a home, the home that you're going to be living in, then you are putting money out. And therefore, because of that reason, it is a liability. My true answer to this is it depends. And so I really believe that Grant Cardone is speaking from a perspective of, he lives in, Miami, Florida, and I've talked to a lot of people that live out in California, where real estate may be in your market, $500,000 to even purchase what would be your first time home. And so I would argue to that point of, if I lived out in California and my option was that I needed to get myself a mortgage for almost $500,000, that could potentially be a liability for you. Because if you're able to get a loan for $500,000, it may be the better option for you to invest that money and get some rental properties and then make that more income producing. When you're talking about having to spend that much money to just live in a comfortable place, because if in some parts of California, you may need to spend way more than $500,000 to get a decent size space for you and your family. But if we are looking at homes in the Midwest, I'm here in Cleveland, Ohio, it makes no sense for you not to own a home. The price points of these homes, you can get something that is, over 2,000 square feet for, $200,000, maybe even less in this marketplace. And so it becomes cheaper for you to own that home and pay that mortgage than it would be for you to get a rental unit somewhere. So I think what the primary thing that you have to look at does it make more sense for you to buy the property and pay a lower monthly payment than it would for you to rent the property? In our area, rents have gone up. They've increased, especially now during COVID, where someone is paying, $1,200, $1,500, $2,000 for a home that would, if they took out a mortgage on it, will cost them about $900, right? The biggest problem that I see, what happens is a lot of times people, when you go out, you're buying that first property, you're overspending. Not necessarily overspending on the house. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you're maxing out your budget. You always have to remember that, most of the time when you're receiving that pre-approval letter, that lender is going off of your gross income, not your net. We live and operate off of our net income. So that's number one. So that pre-approval. So if that lender gives you a pre-approval for $200,000, $300,000, this does not mean that you need to spend all $200,000 and $300,000. We have to look at buying a home as more as an asset building way to go about doing it, but we don't want to get into debt doing that. So when we look at Americans and just in general, a lot of them, they're drowning in debt because they're spending too much. You're using your credit cards and you're getting into debt for something that you didn't have the money to pay for ordinarily. And owning a home is no different from this. When you go out to get that mortgage, if you have already previously been renting and you have been used to paying, $600, $700 in rent every month, and now you take on a mortgage because you're based on your income, the lender or the loan officer is saying that you can afford more homes, so you can go up to a $1,500 payment. That jump from paying $600 a month to $1,500 a month could break you. And that's what we're seeing. You want to be able to move into a property that you, with a comfortable payment that allows you to still be able to save. That is going to be the key word here. So not overspending and having enough money that you're able to save, put away for rainy days, save for retirements and anything else. So going back to all of this, if you're just now joining me here, thank you for joining me. I'm talking about is owning a home a asset or a liability? And I just was watching a video interview that was done recently with Grant Cardone, and I just realized someone watching that video and they don't go out to have a bigger, deeper conversation about that. And so they just make the decision of, no, I don't want to own my personal home because it's a liability. I think in some communities, that's a dangerous thing to do because honestly, owning a home for many people is a way for forced savings. Without owning the home, they're not putting the money away into a savings account. Owning the home allows for forced savings. When you make those monthly mortgage payments, it is going towards or building the equity up in that property. When you have the equity in the property, you're able to pull that cash out. You can send your kids to college. You can go on vacation if you choose to do that. That can be your retirement money. You can buy more investment or buy some investment properties for yourself. So owning that home is the way that's going to get you to do that. And for most people, it's the only way for people to do that. So I think you have to look at where you live and look at the price point of the homes, because that plays a major factor. If it is cheaper to buy than it is to rent, then that may be the option for you to go with. So if you have any additional questions about this, I'm happy to answer those questions for you. You can call that number that's scrolling below. Just let me know. So I just want to say thank you for joining me today. I hope that made sense of how I'm trying to break that down and explain it to you. Obviously, everyone's situation is a little bit differently. If you want to have a offline conversation about it, you can call that number that's scrolling below. I'm happy to answer any questions for you. And so I just want to say, have a wonderful Monday, and I look forward to seeing you next week.